She's one of the only early First Ladies who used the power of the press to help her husband in his political matters. As a matter of fact, she was one of the only people in these early days to really leverage the press to talk to the people, similarly to how people do now, whether using the press or social media. She would write letters and send them to editors to have them published, and sometimes she would write letters and send them to friends to have them send them to friendly publishers. Thus, she was able to get some favorable opinions about her husband in the press. What's most notable about Abigail Adams is that she completely debunks any theories or ideas you might have about how women had to be silent at this time. She told her husband in no uncertain terms what she thought he should do politically, and she was also very vocal about her belief that women should be represented in the new government. As Adams was involved in the crafting of the Declaration of Independence, Abigail famously wrote to him to remember the ladies as you're coming up with this new document of freedom, to please grant ladies more freedom and representation than they've been granted in Europe. She went on to say that she thought it was unfair for wives to basically have no rights outside those of their husbands, because at that time, husbands and wives were one legal entity, and if a woman wasn't married, her property and her legal representation was strictly from her father. And she said that members of your sex are known for being tyrants. It's the natural bend of them. She didn't seem to think of her husband in that way because it seems that he was very fair and very loving and respectful of her. Yet she felt that many men want to treat their wives with less than the respect they deserved if given that much power. So she urged him to not give men the power to be that much of tyrants. She never specifically mentioned the right to vote, but you have to consider what Federalists believed at that time. Very few, even white men, voted in that early structure, since the Federalists believed more in having the Electoral College and elected officials. The same principles that originally had bothered Adams. Taxation without representation, or laws without representation. She believed that women's voice should be respected and represented in government, and she warned that if women were not given that kind of representation, that they would have to rise up and take it for themselves. She also believed very strongly that slave labor was wrong, as did Adams. They both came from a northern state, Massachusetts, so their family farms didn't rely on any slave labor, but Adams made it a point to never use enslaved labor, which was a novelty even in the North at that time. He tried to curtail the use of slaves in his own personal circle and helped in ending the introduction of slaves to the United States. I think that along with remembering the ladies, Abigail may have been disappointed that he didn't abolish slavery in the United States or free slaves, but like many founding fathers, believed that it would be too drastic and too many people would be just diametrically opposed to it. It needed to be a more gradual incline, so I believe it was the fear of what people would say that kept him from making a bolder stand on that point. But he did believe very strongly in the equality of all individuals and in treating people fairly, and in treating people of all colors and women as well with a great deal of respect because of his devotion to and love for his dear wife. Like many of the early First Ladies, Abigail Adams didn't like the public eye. She wasn't very fond of having to always be surrounded by the judgment of the press and people being out to get you. But that didn't stop her from being a very warm, welcoming hostess. She hosted charming events during the day and night at eventually the White House, and before that, the other president's house in Philadelphia. Her charming personality helped endear John Adams to other people, and she was good friends with Martha Washington, helping to establish what the role of First Lady would be.